My name is Tanya, and this is my do-it-yourself channel. This month, April, is Autism Awareness Month. So each project that I've done so far has to do with sensory issues, items that might be useful to parents who have a child on the spectrum. Everything that I have been making, I have actually made for my own son who is on the autism spectrum. Today, what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to make two different things. I'm going to make one of them for my son. The other one I've already made, but the project that I'm making today is just an extra step. The first thing I'm going to show you is a compression sheet. This is the one that I've already made for my son. It has done wonders for him in the time he's made it. I actually made it for him before he got his official diagnosis of autism, because the boy tossed and turned all night, back and forth. I could hear him. So for both of these projects, we're going to use Lycra or spandex would work. They're basically kind of the same thing. I actually found my material in the costume aisle at Joann's. Basically, all you need is something stretchy, material-wise. You don't want it to be too heavy because they're going to be sleeping under this and then probably their blanket's not on it. It's mainly just for the compression. So, this is mine. I don't have enough material here to make the sheet because I've already made that. The second thing we're going to make, or I'm going to show you how to make, is a compression-like bodysuit. And it's very similar to the sheet. It does the same things. And it's very similar. You need less material and there's a little bit more sewing done on it. So for the compression sheets, what you need to do to find the size you need is to measure your bed, your mattress. I think the average twin size mattress, the top part, width is 38 inches. So what I did for my son's is, well, originally, I just measured the whole bed, the whole mattress, the top, the bottom, the sides. So it was like 38, and the sides were like 8, I think. So once I got it done, it was too much. It wasn't compressing on him because it fit perfectly. So I did some research and I went back and looked, and I ended up having to cut off about 1.5 feet, 2 feet off of that. Which, I mean, it's easy enough if you have to do it. You just cut and then you re-sew the two sides to form a seam. So what I found is if you measure the top of the mattress, and like I said, that's about 38 inches for a twin, you multiply that times 2, and that'll give you the other side, or just 38 plus 38 here. And then you can subtract about 12 inches off that, a foot. You don't want it to be too tight, but you do want it to give that compression and like a hug feeling. A lot of kids on the spectrum or those with sensory processing issues, they like that feeling. It's pressure on their muscles and that. So what you will do once you figure out how much material you need, you can go to a fabric store and purchase it. I would recommend checking the prices because like I got this on clearance for pretty cheap. If you don't get it on sale, it can be expensive. Now, granted, the sensory sheets themselves are about $70 or more. So you could probably get enough if you catch it on sale for about $15. So you can make this project for about $15, as long as you have the thread in that already, which if you put the seam under the bed, it doesn't really matter what color thread you use. I do have green. It's coordinating to the material. Not perfect, but good enough. For the body sock that the kid can actually get in and kind of move around in, the amount of material you want for that is you want to measure their height, and then you want to measure their width. So you'll want their height just as it is. My son is 41 inches. So I would want it to be 41 inches or about 42, around that 40, because it stretches. For the width, you want to measure it and, say it's 18 inches. And then you double that. because the way we sew it, it's got to go front and back. So shoulder to shoulder, or you can do arm to arm, but it's stretchy. So she could probably be okay with shoulder to shoulder. And then we're going to sew them the same way. Just the difference right now is just the amount of material. For the compression sheet, you want to measure the top of your mattress, times that times 2, and then subtract about a foot, so 12 inches. So as an example, let me get my calculator here so I don't have to do it in my head. My son's mattress was 38 inches across, width-wise. So 38 plus 38 is 76. So then I would subtract 12 from that and get 64 inches, which works out, if you divide, let's see, 64 inches divided by, that would give you about 5 1/3 foot. So that's going to be a little less than 2 yards. So for a twin size mattress, I got 2 yards of fabric, or 1 3/4 yard. So that'll give you kind of an idea if you get it on sale, and whatever color you want. I mean, like I said, it's probably going to be covered by a blanket. So unless you're really worried about what it looks like, that it matches the room, that's on you. That's up to you. So then, once again, for the body sock, that is just going to be the height of the child. My son is 41 inches, and he is about 16 inches shoulder to shoulder, I believe. Actually, probably closer to 12. So we'll go with 12. That gets multiplied times 2, so 24 inches for the width. Height was 41 or 42, depending on if you want to round up or down. So, I mean, again, this is a rough estimate. The material is really, really stretchy. So you've got some give, you got some take. So to start it out, you want to, like with a pillow, match the opposite sides of your material together. Now, the material I have here, once again, that I'm working with, is the size I need for the body sock, because I've already made him a sheet. So I'm going to pin these. I may not pin them all, simply because I've gotten used to sewing without being pinned sometimes. But with stretchy fabric, it is really, it can get difficult. They'll stretch, they'll slide, especially with this silky, like it's real smooth and silky. So pinning it is not a bad idea, especially if you're a beginner. And even with me, sometimes depends on how much time I want to spend. So I'm going to do this while you watch. So what we're going to do now, we can also pin this hem. Now for the body sock or the compression sock, whatever you want to call it, you have to do this because this is where their feet are going to be in that when they're in it. For the sheet, it's up to you. Originally when I did our sheet, I didn't hem the bottom one, and it works. I can adjust it, pull it up farther up or down. But I have found that by hemming that, it putting a hem there, it actually kind of keeps it from sliding up farther, especially if your kid tosses and turns. It's entirely up to you. It's an easy fix if you do like I did and you don't do it, and then you decide, hey, let's see what happens, and then do it. You just pull it back off, turn it inside out, and sew. So I am going to pin it because I am making the body sock this time. All right, so I have that one pinned as well. So for both of these, because you're using such stretchy material, you want to do a zigzag stitch. Now, most sewing machines have this. I think all the basic ones. I've just got a cheap little Walmart brother machine here, and it has it. So the zigzag stitch, it's different, of course, than the straight stitch, and it works better with stretchy fabric. It helps. You do have to be careful when you're stitching fabric that's stretchy, or when you're quilting, if you've got several layers of fabric that you're quilting together, because they'll slip. So I do have a walking foot here, which I got mine at Joann's. Usually I have to go to a specialty sewing store. Our Joann's has inside of it like a sewing area. It's a different company, and I talked to them and they actually had one. But what it is, the walking foot has got a couple feet on it, and it kind of helps keep the material together. You can do this project without one. Just watch and be careful that they don't slip a lot. That's partially part of the reason for the pinning. So I'm going to go ahead and sew up these seams. Okay, so I've got one seam, the side seam, sewed. And like I said, you can stop there for the sheet if you like. Take it off, flip it inside out, and you've got yourself a sensory sheet. If you want the bottom, so that it goes along the bottom of the bed, if you want a seam there, then sew up that inside like I'm about to do. All right, so now we have both seams done. You want to take out your pins. I have found when I do a zigzag stitch that I have to raise the tension on my needle, on my machine a little bit. I use a little bit lower of a tension with a regular stitch, which I'll show you what happened because I started it here. See how the back of it is a little messy right there? That would be because I forgot at that point to turn the tension up. I noticed it pretty quick, and I just turned the tension up on my machine. Okay, so at that point, you're pretty much done with the sensory sheet. In case you're trying to turn the video off now, I will update and let you know that, once again, sensory sheet, you measure the top of the mattress, double that, and then subtract 12 inches from that to get the approximate width of fabric you need. So, if you're cutting out now because all you were interested in was a sensory sheet, I appreciate it, and thanks for watching. Otherwise, we're going to add a couple more steps to make this into a sensory sock or a bodysuit. So you've got that open top there. We're going to pin it. Now when you pin it, make sure you pin it down far enough that you don't have to do like I sometimes end up doing and removing the pins as you sew. Because you got to keep in mind that the foot there on your sewing machine can get caught on the pins if you put them too close to where you want your seam. Alright, so I've got it pinned. Got the top pinned here. And we're not going to just sew this part completely closed because it needs to give some room to let your child or grown-up, however big you made it, to climb inside of it. So I would sew, let me see, and leave about the size of the waist open for whatever you're making, whoever you're making it for. So I'm going to sew about 6 inches in on both of these sides because their neck's going to stick out. I mean, it's stretchy enough they can put it over their heads if they want, but they've got to be able to climb in. So if you want, you can mark it. It's not a bad idea. But like I said, I would leave it about the size of their waist. Open. And you want that opening in the middle. So I don't know if you can see that. I drew a line. A couple lines just to kind of show where I'm going to sew to. So we're going to sew that first one. Alright, well, I got one of those sides complete. Then I am going to flip it over and sew to the other line. All right, let's cut this. So I left a decent size opening here. Stretch and let them climb in. So then we will remove our pins. After that, you can trim up any thread you've got left on there. I always end up doing that at the end of a project. And as easy and quick as that was, we are done. Except you turn it inside out. And you have, at this point, a body sock, sensory glove, with a hole for them to climb in and to fit on there and struggle in. I will not embarrass myself by trying to climb into this because it is made for my child who is a lot smaller than me. But there you go. One good thing about Lycra and Sanex and all that is it doesn't run. It doesn't get strings off of it. You do not have to sew up that opening. It's very easy. The hardest part is actually sewing it and keeping the layers together. So there you go. Very stretchy. Very good for those sensory. I mean, you know, some kids just like it. Even if they don't have sensory issues. They just like piling blankets on themselves or pillows on themselves. So, I'm going to give a rundown of the material we used today. Material-wise, if you are making the sensory sheet, you want to measure the top of that bed, the width. For a twin, average was about 36, 35, somewhere in there. So measure that top. Multiply by 2, and then subtract 12 inches to get the amount of material you need. I think for my sons, it ended up being 1 3/4 yard. And you'll just sew up a seam. And then along the bottom seam if you want it so it doesn't slide up a little. For the body sock, it is your child's height, and then the width of their shoulders times 2 for the width. And it's pretty simple. You sew up those seams, flip that thing inside out, and you've saved yourself some money. The sheets themselves for the beds go from $70 or higher. And the body socks I've seen anywhere from $35 to higher. I think I bought 3.5 yards material total of this spandex. And I was able to make both. The sensory sheet and the sock. And I even had a little bit extra because I ended up having to, when I did it the first time, I messed up the sheet. So it saves you some money. And I know as any parent, sleep is precious and priceless. And a lot of our little ones have sleeping issues. So anything that helps them sleep helps us sleep. So, once again, my name's Tanya. Thank you for joining me today, and happy Autism Awareness Month.